Today's episode of the Just Keep Swimming podcast is brought to you by Audible. Audible is an online audiobook and podcast service offering over 10,000 books and the ability to listen to your favorite podcasts, including the Just Keep Swimming podcast. I personally use Audible all the time and suggest you take a listen to Intentional Living by John C. Maxwell. In this book, Mr. Maxwell shares his story on how he was able to live a noble and purposeful life and gives you tips and tricks so you can do the same. So please start your 30-day free trial now at www.audibletrial.com/JKS podcast, all lowercase. Again, that is www.audibletrial.com/JKS podcast. And if you have any more questions or concerns for the Just Keep Swimming podcast, you're always welcome to reach out to us on Facebook or at Instagram at justskeepswimming_podcast, or you can email us at jkspodcast702@gmail.com. And with that out the way, let's dive into it. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the Just Keep Swimming podcast. It's your friend, your boy, your host, Mr. Adrian Jackson, back at it again with another great episode for you. And you already know who I got with me. It's the man, the myth, the legend. It's Mr.
Twa.
A.K.A.
1-3.
A.K.A.
Captain Capper.
A.K.A.
Donovan Jackson.
Yes, sir. How we doing today, brother?
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Weren't you wearing that last episode?
Hey, don't worry about it, brother. Like, I'm always fresh and clean, even when I'm wearing the same thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, I love it. Bars,
Yeah.
bars. You're just rapping today. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much again for coming back and joining us again live for another great episode. We have another very special guest with you guys today. And from my understanding, he is a $1 million man. So what we about to do is bring him to the microphone so we can learn about how to make some money today. So bring him to the microphone. We have Mr. James McGuire. Mr. James, how we doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, man. I feel like I need more nicknames, but I would be, I would be AKA Sherlock for Holmes, AKA and nothing else. So
Sherlock for Holmes.
That's
I like
kind of
that.
hard.
That's
yeah.
cool.
I mean, that's a staple right there. I think
Yeah.
you're good.
Man, when I call people and they're like, "This is your email address?" I said, "Till the day I die." Like, absolutely.
Beautiful.
Love it, James. Well, thank you so much for coming and joining us today. And we'll make a big shout out to Mr. PJ for hooking up this interview. We appreciate you so much, brother. So, James, I just wanted to talk a little bit about today about money and earning money. To my understanding, I know that you're a real estate agent and you have a lot more hustles on the side. And I just kind of want to understand like what it is to just be. It seemed like a full-time hustler no matter what.
Yeah, I found out at an early age. Like, I was raised very, very middle to lower class, and I just watched my parents struggle a lot, and I tried to figure like how can I solve a lot of these problems that they had to deal with. There's never been a time in my life where I wasn't at least trying to do at least 2 different streams of revenue, even when I had almost nothing. Just whatever I could to learn as much as possible. I feel like knowledge is power, and the more that I can learn, the more that I can implement. Because I'm a hands-on learner, so like reading it isn't enough. I need to practice it.
Right.
So I've gone about it many different ways. I guess I've always been an agent in some regard because I've always tried to match a buyer with a seller, whatever that might be. What do you want? Let me see if I can fill the need. So,
Right. I like that. So y'all had the mindset of see a need, fill a need.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. So, just to learn more about you, like when did you actually, like what was your very first, I guess, business or hustle or whatever the case you want to call it? Like what was your very first one?
There's been a ton, man, honestly. So I started, my very first job was at Domino's.
Same. Hey,
So, I had a very good relationship with the manager at the time. And what I would do is she'd be like, go hand out these coupons and they're for chicken kickers and you'd get $5.99 free, right? And so I would do the math on what it actually turns out to be, and it would be $6.72. So I would be telling people like, you were so backed up right now, but if you come down and pay in cash, like I can make your order front of the line, and they would. And I had the key to the drawer, and I'd give everyone the coupon after charging them full price after I threw all the coupons away. And so at the end of the night, I'm like, oh, even though I was making $5 an hour, I was really making $100 a night. So. Just creative ways to do stuff like that. After that, I got a job at Starbucks, and you get free drinks if you work there, and I would just sell my free drinks to people, like
wow.
just
that's nice.
a different type of mentality. Then I worked at Quiznos, which was Quiznos.
I haven't heard of that in a minute.
Yeah, I used to love Quiznos. We used to mess up people's sandwiches on purpose so that we could eat them later.
Wow.
But they started piling on more and more responsibilities for me, and the manager would go off and gamble all day, and so she wouldn't even be there. I was the assistant manager without the title and without the pay, and they give you just enough hours to not be call you full time.
Yeah.
So,
that sounds about right.
so I started seeing who my regulars were, and I was like, "Hey, I'll make you whatever you want. $5 in the tip jar, you walk away." And so I'd make them the fattest subs, and I would also be clearing $100 a day, whatever it was, and walking home with a bag full of sandwiches every night for dinner.
Amazing.
So like you're like a real opportunist and like
Yes.
just taking advantage of like the options you're given. Yeah.
That is a great way to put it. Yes, an opportunist. I'm proud to be an opportunist.
Because it's like you learn the system and figure out how to make it work for me.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful right there. Like I would never have thought about the idea of saying, "Hey, you're a regular. You see me all the time. Tip me $5 and then pay for your regular size sub, and I'll just overstuff it for you." Wow.
No, I would say overshoot the cashier.
Well,
Don't
not
pay
saying
for
that,
your
but yeah,
regular.
but
Yeah.
you- whatever you had to say to make it
you
happen.
know, I was young, but in learning, but still implementing. I don't do that anymore.
Right.
But it was a step. It was a building block. you know.
Right. And they built you that mentality of,
Yes.
I can make this work somehow, some way. I just have to find my way.
Correct.
That's so beautiful.
So from there, I got a job selling clothes at a clothes shop, and I would look for things that were severely underpriced, and I would buy those, and then I would sell them for a regular price. So nobody knew what was going on sale besides me, who would check every morning, and magically I was #1 in sales, even though I was the one buying them.
That's beautiful. So, like, how did you learn to get this mindset of seeking the opportunity? Because I feel like a lot of people, we always expect things to just come to us, or if it's for me, it'll appear. But it seems like you go out and make it happen. So, like, how did you learn that skill, that etiquette?
Honestly, I was envious of some friends growing up, and they would do what they do on the streets. They would sell things, and so I was like, how can I implement that into regular life without doing that? And so I started figuring out ways, because they would tell me what they'd get, how much they'd sell it for, et cetera. And so I was like, okay, so that's what the margins are supposed to look like to make it make sense. Let me see if I can build these margins into things that are in our everyday life.
Right.
Have you found out, like, for everything that you've done so far, have you always found out a way to make those margins happen? Like, is there always like kind of like a loophole?
There's not always a loophole, but if the margin doesn't work, that it's not a buy. It's not something worth doing.
Okay.
But there's different situations, like even in my everyday life, where as a real estate agent, I'll know that like something can't happen. Like I had a buyer, and the seller had a solar system leased, and they were under the impression that they could take the solar system with them, and they cannot. And so I was like, okay. So I negotiated the deal, and I was telling my buyers, like, just wait until the finish line, because they're going to have to either pay this off because we didn't do a transfer, or they're going to have to give you a significant credit. And so we're there at the signing table, and they're like, we have a problem. The seller just found out he can't take the solar with them. I was like, yeah, well, for $10,000 or whatever the credit is, then we can absolutely assume it. Because I was telling my buyers the whole time, you're going to have to assume this, or they're going to pay it off. So they wound up paying for 2 years worth of power bills and 2 years worth of HOA dues for my buyer.
Dang, that's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
That's wild.
And then that's just a good come up on the buyer.
Yeah, so my buyer was hooked up. I still got taken care. I get taken care of no matter what deal I do. So like that was good to me. And then years later, when they went to sell, after they got rid of their free power, they used it all up. We sold the house. They had a profit. Life was great.
Oh, wow.
Incredible.
That's beautiful.
So going back to the opportunist portion of it, I saw a demand. I started a sign company that installs real estate signposts, because I looked at a lot of my other friends that were also opportunists. Some of them were photographers. Some of them do just other things that complement the real estate business. So I was like, what can I do? Real estate signpost installation. I was showing a house one day. I needed a welder. And I walk out, and some guy was like, oh, you're going to try and sell that house? And I was like, he goes, screw the bank, whatever. Excuse me. I said, I'm not the bank, so whatever. And I said, so what do you do? He's like, I'm a welder, but I'm retired. And I was like, well, if you want to weld me some like elegant wrought iron signposts that I can put in front of houses that nobody else is doing, I would hire you. And so he's like, okay. We started talking about it, and he was able to make a batch of these wrought iron signposts for me. Then I was like, how can I make these even more enticing? I started putting solar spotlights at the bottom. They charge all day, and as soon as it got dark, it'd shoot at the sign. So like people would walk to these houses like moths to a flame. It was actually first of its kind. So it was very cool.
Yeah.
Started that company, and I was like, this is literally a recession-proof business because no matter what happens in the housing market, everyone's going to have to sell at some point.
Right. And everybody wants a house at some point.
And everyone wants a house at some point. So what I did is I leveraged my my ability to be friends and my rapport with a lot of different agents, and I used that to get the business going, get it customers, get it people that actually wanted this. So I increased the demand on the supply that I had, and I wound up having to get more and more posts for this to make that business blow up.
Oh, wow.
You made it like a whole key, a little like community as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He made his own little team.
Yeah.
You know, and you built it up, and now everybody's eating. Like, that's so beautiful. So, how long have you been in real estate for?
12 years.
12 years? Okay. Did you like always start off doing big sales, or did you start off with something small?
Let me tell you, man, my biggest sale is probably like $1 million. Like I'm one of the top 1% of agents in town consistently, and it's all volume. It's all like my first clients when I got started were $70,000 sales and $80,000 sales, and as the market improved, those turned into $300,000 houses, $400,000 houses. So I just always took care of people the same way, whether they have a $100,000 condo or $1 million mansion. Like,
beautiful. And that's that right there is like a basic principle of life. Treat the boss the same way you'll treat the janitor.
100%.
You know,
and it like I don't know, it just feels so rewarding. It feels more rewarding, honestly, on the bottom tier than it does on the top. It should be equal, but I don't know, just something. It just touches you like extra, you know?
Right, exactly. Because you know they actually truly needed the help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And they're more grateful. They're like, oh my god, I didn't think this was like even a possibility. Like you made my dream come true. Like,
and especially since they're like first time buyers, most likely too.
A lot of times.
Yeah. Especially if they just get that little bit of guidance just to get their foot in the door. And then now they have that experience, and then they have somebody to go to constantly if they're going to make another move.
That has this mentality that's been built up. It's like, I'm fighting for the little guy, but I can also fight for the big guy. Like it's ready to get it in.
Right, exactly. No, and I love that. And I think that's always beautiful, fight for the little guy. So besides real estate, like what else do you do to earn funds and income?
You know, I mess around with stocks. I mess around with crypto. I mess around with NFTs. I do a lot of different things. We call them alpha groups. You have like a chat group, by the way. Nothing that I say in regards to anything that isn't real estate is not financial advice. So I have groups, and they make plays. And some of them, like, they're into certain coins or they're into certain projects. And they'll tell us, like, this is going to run from here until whenever you want to sell. And then you basically pull the ripcord whenever you're ready. But we have basically, you know, it's a team. It's a team of people that are each trying to make money. It's an alpha team. And it's just the people that you surround yourself with that you want to eat with you. You want to see them succeed. And I'm just as happy if they win without me.
Right.
Is the crazy thing. Like, a lot of people don't get that.
Right. No, and I think that's beautiful, the idea of having a team, you know what I'm saying? Building that team, like you were saying with the guy with the sign post. You built yourself community now. Now I have me somebody bringing in personally customized signposts for my houses, and I'm giving somebody else now an opportunity to be retired but not be bored.
Right.
You know, make sure he keeps his hand moving, keep his skills up there, and who knows where that may lead. So I think that's beautiful. So I guess I'm curious to see, like, how do you start your teams? Is it always just being in the right place, right time, communicating with the right person, or
I mean, you really need to figure out what your weaknesses are. If you have too many people that are the same strengths as you, it doesn't work. Like, there's pillars to business, and you want everything to complement you. If, like, even PJ, he has a lot of very specific skills that I admire, and so I'm like, what a great person to have. And I don't know where I can implement you, but I know that I can. Like, that's what you need to know.
Right. Knowing that everybody's useful in their own way. And that's exactly how our team works right here. You know, I got Mr. Co-host right here no matter what. You know, Mr. PJ's getting amazing guests. Mr. T's Mac is behind the scenes right now, make sure the show runs nice and smooth, doing all these amazing edits that you guys are seeing right now. And I cannot make none of this stuff possible for myself at all.
So you build the team, you know.
Exactly.
And it's people that you trust, or you can build trust like as you go, but you feed trust a little bit at a time, and they earn more and you give them more. Like, that's just, that's life.
Right. So what happens when you come across somebody who you thought would be a good fit for the team, but they actually weren't? How do you handle a situation like that?
One of the hardest things in this world is figuring out when and how to cut someone loose if it's not a good fit.
And you know, I don't know, that just kind of hit personal. Yeah. You know, you really got to think about it, and then also how are you going to do it, and making sure, like,
because you get emotionally invested and emotionally attached. You're like, no, I know I see it in you, but you can't want it more than they do.
That part.
Exactly. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
And through experience, there's been times that I've kept people on for longer than I should have because I know I can see it. But if they're like, "Well, I'm not you," and so I don't need you to be me. I just need you to be you.
Yo, dead ass though.
I need you to be you. That's why I brought you on the team.
Yeah.
You yourself.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's amazing, beautiful. So, did you start your real estate company up from scratch, or did you just join the company, or?
Man, I'm very self-made, if you will. So I absolutely started, like I said, honestly, when I got started in real estate, it was a really bad time. It was like 2011, 2012. Things were like barely starting to recover. And it cost like $2,500 just to be a real estate agent. I took all the classes, I took all the tests, I passed, and I had no clients. So I'm sitting there like cold calling people, and nobody wants to talk about real estate. And the brokerage that I was with, I figured they took a big split from your first like sales and everything, and I figured it was just paying dues into an industry that I want to be in. But they took it from like rentals too, and like if I can't help you for a rental, and like I'm driving you around, it cost me $200 in gas, and my check's $150 because it's $300, and then you have to split it. I went in tears, honestly. I was like, I want this to work so bad, and I can't make it work like this. And one of my mentors, super gangster, she went to bat for me, and they reversed that entire like back end process to where they don't mess with rentals, and so I was slowly able to get my start, and then I just kept reinvesting in my business, reinvesting in myself, and doing what I could to gain any knowledge along the way. I did a lot of reading, did a lot of practice, just kept getting the reps in. A lot of things that people do when they're starting off in real estate are open houses. So you would ask an agent that's like successful, hey, can I hold one of your houses open? And a lot of them would be like, no, because they want whatever leads they can get, or they're going to hold it open themselves. So what I was out there in a suit and tie, door knocking to invite people to this open house in Vegas heat, 117 degrees. And one dude was on his porch, and he just looked at me, and he's like, man, the market must be bad if you're out here in a suit and tie, door knocking in 117 degree weather. And I was like, he's right. Like, I gotta make it like feel like I've been here before, make it feel like I know what I'm doing, and that I'm here, and that it's okay. Like, I had friends and relatives like, oh, you're in real estate, right? I didn't want to be exposed to them in a sense of, I want to help you, but I want to know what I'm doing before I help you, so that so that I can make sure that I do right by you, because that meant the most to me.
Right.
So I did steps that resonated with me. So I hate when people cold call me. I don't mind when people come in an open house. So I wasn't trying to cold call anymore. So I was like, let me see if I can get partners that would have me warm leads, or people that were ready to go. And while everyone else was trying to farm people, I then realized I should farm the agents. So I started talking to all the different agents, made good connections. A lot of them, times were tough. They had to go back to work. So I was like, you go back to work, I'll work your client and give you 25%. They'd start handing me their people. And so it got me through the programs that I needed. And then eventually I realized that company was not for me, and I switched.
Beautiful. And so I was laughing, I was smiling as you were talking, because I just love some of the things that you were saying, like the principles that you're getting out there. And one of the things you said is get the reps in. You know, a lot of people, like you said, they'll do one set, two set. Yeah, I'm not seeing the results I want, I'm done. And it's like, no, you have to get the reps in. Like, you know, I'm on rep right now, 160 something with the podcast, you know, and we're just now starting to see the results and the movement that we're wanting to. And it's like, we can't give up. If you give up, you're never going to see the results.
That's real.
You know,
I just saw this thing, and it was like, who wants to improve their business? And some people raise their hand, and it's like, but who wants to be obsessed with their business? Same people raise their hands, and it's like, you have to choose. And if you're obsessed, it's going to work. And if you just want to improve, it might.
It might, exactly. Because the one is just kind of, but the assessment is no. I want it. It needs. It has to happen. The faith that it's not going to give up. You have so much more behind than a want.
Right. Well, it's both feet in instead of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because it's very much so like in real estate with these people that had two jobs. It's like you have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. The people that want to be represented need both feet in. If they need to see a house and you're at work, that doesn't work. That house might be gone tomorrow. Like, if you're not committed to your craft, your podcast, your exercising, whatever it is, like, you have to be committed to see results.
Exactly. No, and I love that, the commitment, because so I did take a venture on real estate a long time ago, back in my early 20s, right after I graduated college. And it was a good attempt, you know, to see how the market works and stuff, but I did not have that dedication, that drive. I got brought on because a former boss, he agreed to mentor me to go through real estate. So I was like, I'm going to trust you, and I'm going to follow your steps. But then, you know, for me, it was like, where's my pay at? I'm over here doing all this stuff for you. Where's my pay? It wasn't about the idea of, in 10 years, I'm going to be successful. It's like, no, I need something right now. And I think that's the main reason that I truly failed, because it wasn't my drive. The money was just my drive. It wasn't the actual, I want to help the little man, like how you said earlier. I want to give back and help people have the opportunity that others don't have.
It was tough, man. Just the learning part of it, passing the test portion of it. Like I'm not a great tester. So what I did was I did the practice test and then I reverse engineered how that answer worked. I had to figure out how my mind's supposed to work because it's not common sense. It's sensible, but it's not common sense. So now, I mean, I can break things down to its simplest form because that's what you can do when you master your craft.
Exactly.
10,000 hours to master a craft. I probably had 10,000 hours in year 5, because I was up all night doing ads, up all night making marketing pitches, doing everything that I could to make it make sense to reach the right people.
Right. Understandable. So, like you said, 10,000 hours to market your craft. I want to talk about how did you overcome the failures that I'm pretty sure you came across in all the ventures you took. So I'm just curious, like, what do you do to overcome failure when it does present itself?
You have to be able to have the ability to take a punch in the mouth and keep going. And a lot of people don't have that, and it's lost on a lot of the next generation, to be fair. But I've probably lost more than I've won, to be honest. Those losses, though, if you can get up and just have that mental fortitude to be like, I'm going to keep going, this isn't it, let me figure out how else this can work, it really just starts triggering the creative parts of your brain, too. Some solutions, I'm like, this could work, I don't know that it will, and then it winds up working, or it winds up not working. But if I didn't take that at-bat or that swing or that chance, I would have never known.
Right.
And that's what, like, after 2 or 3 years in the business, had me embrace the Sherlock name. I was like, I'm finding solutions, like, and every transaction is as individual as a fingerprint. So I need to figure out where this fingerprint goes.
I love that. I love how you have the mindset of every one of them is different, because it's like I had to have the same mindset with every podcast episode I have. Every podcast episode is unique in its own way. I can't come here and think I'm going to ask you the same questions I just asked this person. It doesn't work that way because every conversation is unique and fluent. You have to be present for that moment.
And I feel like your intention coming into that also creates that space for success in the first place. Like for the podcast, we want it to be as natural as possible. We have some questions built out, but we just want to go with the flow of things and see where things take us. And I mean, we've had some episodes where it's just like, it's kind of like, all right, what it was. But I mean, as we pushed through those and went to the next week after next week after next week, we learned how to work around some of those tough pain points during the episode and still made it come out to be a successful episode at that. So it's just like you were saying, you got to get those reps in, take those lessons, not the losses, but the lessons, and then build off of that so you can do better and be able to be more creative in finding other solutions for any barriers.
You win or you learn. There's no losses.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So
if you learn.
If you go in with that, you're golden.
Right. I love it. So when it comes to, like you said, you start off as a, middle-class child who had to learn how to go get what he wanted. So I'm curious on, like, what financial things did you learn throughout this time to really make it so for your money to work for you and not you having to always work for it?
Invest. I mean, like I said, I would invest in myself at an earlier age, but I would also learn to put money away. I would even hide it from myself, and later, I forgot about it. Because it's so easy to spend money when it's in smaller amounts, and you're like, I'm never going to reach this bar. But the more that you start sacking away, it starts growing. So I would literally have to hide it from myself. But I knew that about me, and so that's what I would do. And so, like, if you go to a casino, for instance, like, my philosophy is as soon as you hit the ATM, you already lost. Like, don't do it. So I only go with what I intend to lose. And if you have that philosophy in your weeks, okay, this is my paycheck. This is what I can spend or lose or whatever, and the rest of this has to go toward bills and savings. And if you start saving, then you have the ability to take advantage of opportunities as they present themselves.
Yeah.
Not every opportunity is a winner.
Exactly.
But if I didn't take any risk, I wouldn't be anywhere.
Right. Exactly. No, I miss all the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
So I truly understand that one. Are there any other, like, personal philosophies you have came up with over time that you truly stick to that you feel work for you?
Just be mindful. Think things through. What's the best case scenario here? What's the worst case? Think about all the steps in between because it can land anywhere on this scale. And you just want to figure out like what the cost is to you, what the potential profit is to you, and when it's too much. Because you can cut your losses early, like we were talking about with people before, or you can take small profits, and that's still okay. But as long as you have the mental fortitude to know I'm presently in this moment and I am making this decision, there's a lot of power in that.
And that's a big thing, being present. I feel like a lot of us, we get too caught up in the idea of what this decision will cause tomorrow or the next day or or how it's going to upset somebody.
Right.
You know, and it's like, no, I need to make the best decision that's for me right now in this moment, and then go from there.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to what you were saying. Like, well, it's the risk assessment. Like, okay, well, be mindful and like think about it.
Yeah.
Of course, think if I do this, what's the worst case scenario? What's the best case scenario? But after that, it's like, okay, then what do I want to do though? Am I going to make this decision now or later? Because the longer it stays on your mind, it's going to keep distracting you, and therefore you're stuck in this paralysis.
Yeah, so I would just say, like, be diligent if you're looking to invest in anything. Make sure that that's a good fit for you or whatever you foresee in the future. Like, there's a property that I bought that was, like, at the end of the 215 on, like, Lamb, where there was absolutely nothing out there. And I was like, I can tell that one day these are going to be built up enough to where things will be out here. And now that's an income-generating property that's worth 3 or 4 times what I got it for.
Right, exactly.
Which is awesome.
That's pretty interesting. I truly love it. So, like, do you always, you know, like you said, make the decisions for right now, but how do you make your plans for the future then? Or how do you make your future goals
I stay so open-minded that if somebody says something to me and it makes sense, I think about it further. I'm an overthinker. Sometimes I struggle to sleep. It's tough. But I try to make it make sense. Like, a few years ago, COVID, everyone's like, oh, there's going to be a zombie apocalypse. There's going to be this. There's going to be that. And they're investing in gold because that resonates with them. And they're investing in stocks or whatever because they think that that's going to go up later. And I get that. But in my mind, I'm like, barter. I should barter. So I would stock up on things that people would need to have. Meat, food, veggies, alcohol, tobacco, firearms. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, things that no matter what the circumstances, you're going to want to trade me. And I'm going to have it.
That's interesting. You always step ahead, low key.
You got to.
I love it. So then, the words is in my mind and it went away a few seconds ago. Go ahead and go. I can't believe I had it. It was so beautiful too. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, no, it just really accentuates what you just said. Really accentuates on the fact that like you're really a supply and demand opportunist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I just love how you're always able to provide.
That's the whole goal. Is what can I provide? What need can I fill? What can I supply? Where's the demand? Or where do I think the demand might be?
Yeah.
Because there's a niche market in everything. You just got to figure out if you can fill it and if it's for you.
I love it. So you never go read for the mindset of what you can do for me, but it's more of the mindset of how can I help you?
What can I do for you?
I love that. So I think that right there is a beautiful mindset. So you have like I don't know if you ever read a book. It's called The Go Giver. So you have more of a giving mindset.
You have, oh my God, man. I can't even begin to describe the difference between the mind state difference of being a giver and being a taker. Like, it's so much more rewarding being a giver. And if people don't give back, you stop giving, like, in that direction. Like, it's so, I mean, it's easy after you've practiced it. It's not easy when you start. But it's the nurture of the mind and the giving spirit. And it's just like, I love giving. I love giving back. I love helping. People ask me questions, and I'm not even doing transactions with them. I'm happy to help you. You're in another state. I'll give you advice. I don't know that it's pertaining to the laws in your state, but I'll give you how I would do it here, and you can implement whatever you can. And it always comes back, man. Just karmatically, just everything. I don't know. I just feel so blessed to be where I am today after the amount of work that I've done. I'm excited for where I'm going, wherever that might be, but people are the way to get there, and making sure that everyone's happy, making sure that everyone's eating, and making sure that everyone's fed, man. It's just, it's words can't describe how much that means to me, but it always gives back, man. Life's great. If you think about a red car, you're going to see a red car. Think about positivity and you attract it. It's just so powerful.
Exactly. No, and I love it because the idea that, you know, one of my favorite statements from the Bible for sure is, even though if I give it here, I don't know the exact words, but even if I give it here, doesn't mean it's going to come back from here.
No.
It might come back from a whole different avenue.
Yes.
2 times, 3 times, 4 times greater than what I gave, you know?
Yes.
And it's like how you said it earlier, the open-mindedness to know that don't expect it from here. You know, it may be a different door that opens, but some people are so stuck that no, I gave John $20 and I want it back from him. And it's like, man, Stacy was trying to give you $1,000 for something, but you're so stuck on this 20 for John that you missed this whole opportunity.
So one of my mentors when I was growing up, like I told you, he taught me one of the easiest way or cheapest ways to get rid of somebody that's not right for you is to loan them $20. And you can figure out who's right and who's wrong. They come back, you're like, okay, we're building trust a little bit at a time.
That's a good example.
But it's the basic principle of tithing too. It's like you give to not expect.
Yes.
Because I mean, like Adrian was just saying, like, okay, just for the simple fact of like church, right? Like so many people's talking about, oh, if I give this and then they're like a mega church, they're just going to be taking it and abusing it themselves. Okay, well, but what's the reason you're giving it for? Like, I mean, at least in my belief, I'm giving it to God. I give it for the reason of God. And it's not like I'm expecting him to give that back tenfold or whatever.
Right.
But it's the fact that I gave in the first place under my own judgment that he's going to bless me back in another way, whether that just be like a whole new friend. It may not even come back in the form of like monetary value. Like there's so much value in non-monetary things, just like taking the losses. Oh yeah, I lost this monetary like $1,000, but at least I gained this knowledge, or I gained this connection, or I built this new idea, and then I can take that way further than anything that I can like possessively hold.
Yeah, man. The weight that's lifted off of you by giving is insane. But the way it comes back, you just have to be ready for any opportunity, however it presents itself. And if this is a one-way street, you turn around and go a different way. But just be ready for the blessings wherever they come, and be grateful for them, and give back when you get too. You know, I like my relationships to be win-win.
Right, I love that.
Collaboration at its finest.
Oh yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, help me, I'm gonna help you.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Honestly, I'm a little put off if only one person's winning. I'm like, I don't want to be the only one winning. How can you win too? Let's figure this part out, you know? Otherwise it also feels kind of greedy. Like, it's like, if this is also a one-way street though, you have more of the mindset of wanting to not follow whatever my plan is because you're not winning. And I don't want that to happen.
Right, exactly. And I think that right there is a beautiful mindset, because a lot of people, we're so stuck in that selfish mindset of, I don't care what's happening to you, as long as I get what I want, I'm good.
Right.
You know, but like you said, you're in the mindset of, I'm here to help everybody. I want to make sure if I'm good, you're good as well. If I win, you win.
And I feel like it's sort of an interesting thought too. Like, I feel like it's also nice to be able to receive too, especially if the relationship is right. Because it's kind of selfish to only just give and not take anything else when they're trying to give it to you. You know what I mean? Like, there's definitely a balance, but you got to have the heart to give in order to be able to receive later too.
Absolutely. Just don't look at it monetarily. It's not like, hey, I give you $100, you gave me back 90. It's like, I gave you, you gave me, let's go.
Yeah. Whether you buy me food or you know, you help me out one night when I'm just going through it emotionally. You know, it's like, that'll help me.
It's priceless.
You're priceless. Yes.
Yes, priceless for sure. I truly agree. I think that's beautiful. So let's go get a little deeper now. So I'm just curious to learn a little bit more about your spiritual life. I'm not sure if you're a religious man at all, but I'm just curious on how, you know, earning funds and sticking to your spiritual life, how they go into play with each other for you.
So this is going to be interesting. So my mom's Jewish and my dad's Catholic. So growing up, like, kids would be like, Jesus is real or he isn't? I was like, I don't know, Mom, which one is it? And she's like, he was a nice Jewish boy. And I'm like, okay. And so like at a point, like, there's just so much conflicting information. We'd celebrate Hanukkah, we'd celebrate Christmas. Like, I don't know what we're doing. Like, everyone doesn't do this? I don't know. Yeah. But they were divorced, so we'd spend one with one and one with the other. And then for a while I was like, these conflict too much. I put a lot of faith in God, and my grandma passed away when I was 18, and she was like the biggest influence in my life. And so then I was like, this isn't it. This isn't it. And I was agnostic, if you will, for probably the next 6 years. But after I started getting back myself, learning who I was, who I wanted to be, I got the opportunity to go to Israel. And there's so much phenomenally amazing stuff in Israel, but just the experience in itself, because it's called birthright, because I'm part Jewish, your mom's Jewish, you get to go. Yeah. It's called tag lead or birthright, but I got to go for like $300, just make sure you get a passport, and you just experience this, and you go on this trip with all these people, you see all these different landmarks, like where Jesus had the Last Supper, and like Colosseums from the year 23 that was like a Byzantine civilization, that was Roman, and it was Greek, like all, it was so like powerful. But while we're going through all of this, one of my mom's grandparents moved to America, taught themselves English on this writing desk, and used it to write poetry. I also enjoy writing poetry. So we were sitting there and going through the graves of a lot of people that passed away and stuff, and one of the headstones basically said that this person migrated to America, taught themselves English, and used it for writing, and I just started bawling. But by like the third or fourth day, we went to like the authentic Holocaust Museum, and that just tore me apart, man. I was like, all right, this is it. Something's hitting me, and I think it's like ancestral at this point. So then we went to the Wailing Wall. If you're familiar, Yeah?
Yeah.
So you get to like write down a wish, if you will, and you put it in the wall and you just hope that it comes true, I guess. But my wish was that to make my grandparents proud, even though they had passed. So then my whole mind state just switched to what would I do that would make them proud instead of taking things from Domino's or Quiznos. So it flipped my everything, man. So I'm very blessed to have had that experience. It was life changing for me, and so I am Jewish.
Beautiful, beautiful. So is that trip really sparked you to wanting to still do what you do, but do it in the correct manner that will 100% honor your grandparents and the people that came before you?
Yeah, that meant the most to me.
I think that's beautiful right there.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, like coming to just yourself, like self-discovery.
Super self-discovery, man.
Because I feel like, well, no, just speaking to you right now, coming from somebody that's still like on his journey.
Yeah.
Just seeing that solidified within your character is amazing to like look at,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I mean, before I took that trip, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this.
Say what you want to say.
All right. So a friend had some DMT, and I had never done it before in my life.
Okay.
And I was really messing up, man. Just in my life, like just trying to go to real estate school and stuff. I was getting sloppy. And this was like a year before my Israel trip, and I did some of that, and I had this vision where like it was like there was an old ride at the Wet and Wild, the Royal Flush, that like swirls you down a drain.
Yeah.
So it kind of like you close your eyes and it swirled me down a drain. And I was at my mom's house and I was on my back and I couldn't breathe. And so like I need to be able to breathe and I don't want to die on my back. Those are the two things. And so I was like, I also don't want to die in this room or in this house.
Right.
Yeah. So then I was like, I really need to take this real estate seriously. Then I went to Israel and it confirmed it. And then I came back and I hit the ground running.
Beautiful. So it's like the spirit was really just talking to you in multiple aspects.
Yeah.
And you finally just had to sit down and listen, like, you know what, let me do it.
It was like the common denominator. It was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. But ultimately, it was also fulfilling, rewarding, but it was like, you're mentally better than this,
Yeah.
So I started putting that into practice, like getting the reps in, and then it started making sense the more that I did. And so I was like, anything else in life might go wrong, but this stays true to me, and so I'm going to continue on this path.
Yeah.
Understandable.
And I can relate to that heavy too, because I want to say back in 2021 or something like that. I was just messing around with a lot of drugs and stuff like that. And essentially, how I view it, God baptized me Himself in the hot tub
Nice.
alone, because I fell out, and then I was just in this pit of just nothing. I couldn't fear nothing.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this is hell.
Yeah.
And I felt like this hand just like lift me out, and it was like, you're now done with this.
I got goosebumps, man.
Dude, it was it was wild. And I came back up. I'm like, I looked at my friends. I'm like, yo, what happened? Oh, you just slipped and fell. You got right back up. You was out for like 2 seconds. I'm like, nah.
That was an eternity.
That was an eternity. So then, like from then, it was just okay. I went back upstairs because I was dating somebody at the time, and she was Christian. So I was like, after my other friends left, I was like, yo, Jesus was trying to tell me a message, and that's after I was being agnostic,
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, yo, teach me how to pray. So I prayed, and I went to the bathroom, and that feeling came back to where I was about to pass out again. I was just looked myself in the mirror. I'm like, I'm sick of this. Like, I can't, like, God, I give my life to you, and then everything just washed away. And from that point, it just started to click about what things I shouldn't be doing or having in my life, including that relationship. And ever since then, even though in small increments at times, I mean, I'm even though life isn't perfect and it's never going to be perfect, I'm in the best spot of my life currently, and I'm still trying to figure things out. And I have the faith that everything will, work itself out for the best favor as long as I have my faith.
Yes. So something I love about what you just said, and something that I actually practice all the time, and thank you for reminding me, is that I actually like to write not even daily affirmations, but just affirmations, strong affirmations on my mirror. So I have to see it every day. You want to be vain enough to look in the mirror, but it's important that you look yourself in the mirror and talk to yourself, however that might look, a pep talk, whatever it is. But I started with things like I'm unstoppable, and what is your why, and how strong is your why, and like maximum effort, like just put in all of these things. And then I started writing goals, like I want another property this year. I want to make sure that I can close this many transactions this year. And I'm looking at my goal dead in the freaking face every day.
To remind you.
To remind me.
Yeah.
Get it.
Yeah. No, look, so I got something right now I'll share with you guys. So I was reading this amazing book, and they talk about, have the goal in your pocket. So I had this little sheet of paper in my pocket.
Love it.
And, for me, this is my goal. Don't worry about my goal. This is my goal. I want a side hustle earning $2,000 every month using my natural talents and abilities. One side, write your goal. On the opposite side, he who asks shall receive. He who seeks shall find. Who knocks it shall be open. Matthew 7:8.
Beautiful.
And
that
they
is
always
beautiful.
talk about, just have that in your pocket, and having that in your pocket would just always every time you touch the paper, say it out loud. This is my goal. If I ask, I'll receive. If I knock, it'll open. If I seek, I'll find.
Not the same goal, but I cleaned out my room like sometime in the past year, and I found that note that I made several years ago, and I was just like, in the last part, it was like seek and knock, and he will open the door,
Yeah.
and things like that, and I'm just like, well, let's evaluate where I was all those years ago to where I am now, and even just the fact that I wrote it down, like I'm seeing these things come to light. And I'm like, okay, well, that just means keep going, even though I may not know where I'm going, but I'm going to get there at some point.
No, they say the first step to accomplishing a goal is writing it down and be very clear about what you ask for. They say the two most important things in life is figure out what you want and figure out how to ask for it. So if that is yours, that's awesome. But your story kind of reminds me of that Jim Carrey story where he was doing the 3 years that year. He wrote himself a check, he buried it or whatever, and then he pulled that up, and he was like, okay, I can cash this now.
Yes, no, I love it.
Thank you for reminding me of that video.
Appreciate that. Yeah, that's amazing. I love that Jim Carrey story.
Yeah.
So what else do you do personally then? Like you said, you got your affirmations. Like what else do you do personally to keep yourself growing and keeping yourself the most amazing man that you are?
So, social media is a blessing and a curse, right? So what I do when I'm on there is I'm hunting. I'm hunting for things that can uplift other people, and whether it touches them or not, if it's a reminder to me and I look at it later, that's beautiful to me. So like my phone's been filled so many times with so many like memes that are all like positive and attractive and all these things.
Yeah.
I've had to download them to discs and then refill a new phone, and that's totally okay. But not everyone's going to relate to all of them. They're also for me, and they resonate with me. So if they don't resonate with everyone, that's okay. But if they help anybody, just like, man, that's uplifting, and they share it, or they don't, or they just implement it, or they just re-acknowledge the fact that they just read it, and they're like, that is powerful. That's everything, and that's part of the giving and the positivity. Like, it doesn't have to be monetary. It could be something that just, damn, I needed to hear that today.
Exactly. No, I love that to the fullest because that's what I do every day. I literally wake up for my post. I'm like, what vibe am I feeling?
Yeah.
This is helping me right now. Maybe somebody else is feeling this. I'm going to share it hoping it can help another.
Yep.
If not, I'll try again tomorrow. But as of right now, this is all I can truly do today.
And there's days that you can say that it's okay that I don't have anything to give. And there's days that it's okay for you to take for yourself. Like not every day is a grind, but it can be. Just mentally punch in or you don't. But also take that time for yourself because you can't pour from an empty cup, man. You got to make sure you're rested, you're healed, and you're the best version of you so you can give the best version of you.
Exactly.
I was going to say, I started a poetry page for a good bit, and I'm like kind of write every week. You remember that? But I mean, on that along with like my music, I feel like I'm at a certain point to where I'm just kind of mentally tapped out, especially with everything I'm doing. I'm trying to keep all of this on top of like my social life to create connections and doing this podcast, making sure I get my job in so I can pay for my things, start saving, and
100%.
eventually move out. And I had to really sit down and be okay. It's okay to take a break. It's not like it's out of my vision. It's not like I still don't enjoy doing it, but let me get through life and let me recharge my well so I can continue to pour out like I need to, like these boundaries that I need to create with myself, abide by the boundaries of God and create the boundaries for other people as well.
You do poetry?
Yes, I do.
You want to hear a poem?
I'm down.
Yes, please, sure.
All right. This is called Lower Than Low. So before I do it, I'm going to say that I like to put a lot of my negativity out on paper, and it feels like I got it out of myself. And some people like read some of my stuff, they're like, this is pretty awful. But it's like, it's not,
You gotta get you out of there.
Yeah. All right. So this is called Lower Than Low. Reality happening too potent and bold when I'm feeling lower than low. Asking himself how far below he can go is just another case that's open and closed. Degrading himself like there's an O in the zone. He'll only remember what he's chosen to know. Followed his heart until the motion was slowed. Grew colder only because it was frozen in snow. Had the world in my hands, too corrosive to hold. If you don't believe in heartless, watch emotion unfold. When the biggest challenge lies in closing the hole. The angel on my shoulder won't notice I fold because the devil on the other is the most in control. I can't trust much, so I'm hoping to grow. I could settle for silver, but I'm focused on gold.
Deep.
The multiple dichotomies in which you were just speaking right now. It's like you.
Let's go.
Yo, but no, beautiful. Do you write write any of this down to like
of course.
share and stuff like that as well, or
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like it's a puzzle, man. I feel like if something fits, it's cool. Whether people were doing crosswords and Sudoku, I'm figuring out how rhyme schemes work. Like that's a personal pleasure of mine. I used to do spoken word where I would get up and share, and like I miss that, honestly. But when COVID happened, they shut a lot of that down, so I stopped doing it, and I just take the time to like write for myself now.
Right. Beautiful.
I was actually looking for like a open
Me
like
too.
open mic recently.
Find one, let's go.
I'm down. Like I need another hobby outside, especially just to meet more people at that,
More like-minded people, and it's such a great release, man. And honestly, like the first few times I go up, I'd have the butterflies and stuff, and just the ability to like capture those butterflies and be like, I got this is just, it's empowering.
It feels so good.
Oh,
Trust
so
me,
good.
I do trivia every Tuesday, and I go out there every time with butterflies, but then by the end of the night, it feels so good.
So
that
good.
I just stepped out and did it.
Yes.
And I was gonna say, like, you can notice it like on the podcast and stuff like that too. You just being more confident and comfortable with just speaking and things like that. And I know that was the reason why you started it in the first place.
Right, exactly. So, it all transfers over. It all transfers over. Mr. Producer, I was wondering, did we have any questions from our executive crew today?
Yeah, we sure do. So, what's the future of crypto? What do you think about the CBDC? And where do you see crypto in the next 5 years?
Honestly, I think we're about to be experiencing a bull run. I think it's still a little early. So if you're looking for random coins to put in, wouldn't be the worst time to do so. The CBDC, what I think eventually people will stop getting tax returns, and instead they're going to give people their tax returns as a crypto coin so that they can track it a little bit more. Because once something lives on the blockchain, it is there forever. So they want to put all of these things on your transactions anyway where they can track you everywhere. But if it's on the blockchain, they can absolutely do it. Oh, he made an ATM withdrawal at this location at this time. Same thing that your bank would do, except it's permanently there on the blockchain.
Right.
That would be their best way of tracking people. That's like me just thinking ahead, like not financial advice. I can see that being a thing. But this year, I believe, is supposed to be Bitcoin's halving. And so when that happens, altcoins, which are like the smaller coins, they tend to run. If Bitcoin goes this much, altcoins go this much. Like it's crazy. We experienced a lot of good run-ups in like 2021 after the last time that happened, and we're right on track for something like it to happen again.
Okay.
Can you explain what an altcoin is versus a Bitcoin?
Well, Bitcoin is Bitcoin. So it's like Bitcoin's like a whale, and all of the other coins are like fish that follow the whale.
Like Ethereum and things like that, right?
Yeah. So when other people were like extremely bullish on Bitcoin, I looked at Bitcoin's price and I looked at Ethereum. And I was like, this feels like silver to gold comparison, and silver looked cheap as fuck. So I bought a bunch of silver, and it did very well. So I mean, they're all kind of tied toward the same price action, because if Bitcoin starts taking a shit, all these other ones will do the same. So you just kind of watch the mothership, if you will, and try to figure out which ones you like, which ones they might be moving, or what looks cheap based on their entire like year to date or last few months. If something's down, you'll buy the dip instead of buy the top. Like just be mindful of what it's doing right now. But a lot of these have a lot of room to run.
So I was gonna say it's also important to see like what the purpose of the Bitcoin is too, right? Like I guess
the altcoins. So all the altcoins solve different problems, and you need to figure out if it's a logical problem, if it's something that needs to be solved, and if they're doing it efficiently.
So you should do your research on all the coins you're going to purchase.
Always be as diligent as possible if you're going to be investing in anything. But I mean, pardon me.
You're good.
It's extremely relative to whatever it is that you're spending too. If you're going to spend thousands, do your research. If you're going to spend hundreds, do your research. If you're going to spend $10, $20, take a chance. Like, but don't play with anything you're not willing to lose. But there's a lot of long shots that you could throw barely anything in. Like, I have friends that have just barely bought like $50 worth of, these are called meme coins.
Because I bought like Doge and stuff like that.
So those are like meme coins. And so meme coins, so Bitcoin, then you have altcoins, and then meme coins live on these different altcoin chains, if that makes sense. So these meme coins are the fastest way for something to run or not, because they're free as fuck. They're like 0.00000 whatever. And people can make these up. People can do whatever they want with them. And so, you'll want to be careful of, there's something called rug checker. You want to be able to check if the liquidity's been burned, because if it's not, it means like the person that made this coin's holding back most of the money, and they can take it whenever they want. So if they burn it, it's part of the circulating supply. So you want to make sure that that's a thing. You want to make sure that these devs or developers have done other coins before, or see how those past projects have done. See if they have any plans for this. They call it a roadmap. If they have plans to do anything, if there's a roadmap. If there's not, it is strictly a meme coin. And do they have fire memes? Like you're literally picking this based off of the memes, and it is a complete guessing game. But that's like the group of people that I know that are doing their stuff. They're doing this research because they're better researchers than I am.
Understandable.
Especially since they're just sitting in that field. Being active in the field, I should say.
Active in the field, know the back end. I don't know the back end. I know the front end. And so I built people that I trust on the back end so that I know what they're doing. Or if they're doing a project, I would absolutely support it because I know that they're doing it and I know that I trust them.
Right. I love that. And then are there any, being a realtor, are there any real estate secrets that you probably want to hear? Sorry. Are there any real estate secrets that you can give out to the community that definitely for like first-time home buyers that we may not know or we have these wrong ideas about?
There's always programs for first-time home buyers. They're always different. There was a killer program a few years back that was literally like getting people into houses in like severely undervalued neighborhoods. They would pay for your down payment. They would pay for your closing costs. You pay for like your home inspection, and that's it. Like,
wow.
That was golden. And so they had X amount of money allocated for it. And when they used it all, they were like, all right, the program's gone. But then they found out that a lot of these deals fell out of escrow, and so they didn't use it all, and they brought the rest back and gave the rest out. So if you're not checking in with your real estate agent, do. Or lender. Your lender will be able to know too. It doesn't have to be a real estate agent. It could be a lender, but ask questions. Something that has affected clients of mine too is if there's some significant repair that needs to be done to a house that you own, ask your agent if that's a good price or if that's fair or if you need to do that because a lot of times you don't, or there's companies that put significant markups on it so that they can get paid. I try to just make sure my people are getting taken care of. I don't even get asked for kickbacks or nothing from any of the contractors that I work with. I just want my people to get in and get out with good quality work for the cheapest price that they can get.
Right.
Beautiful.
Other things. So you absolutely want to have or save a significant amount down, but there's a lot of misconceptions right now with the rate. Some things that people can do is if you ask for closing costs in a deal and you use that money to buy down the rate, which you could do. Like if I asked the seller for 10 grand, if I wanted to buy that rate down for 10 grand, it wouldn't do as much for me as if the seller buyed to pay that rate down. So you use that 10 grand for the seller to buy down your rate, and instead of saving 10 grand off the price or something, you get those costs and it winds up saving you like $150 to $200 a month. So I think those are some gems.
Keep that in my back pocket.
Yeah.
Keep that in my back pocket for sure. And then, one other question I had for you, just, like I said, I know you're very financially wise. What are some things that are keeping people back from becoming more financially stable or actually, get toward this level of financial freedom that we're all looking for? What do you believe?
We're all holding ourselves back in one regard or another. But I think there's a lot of things out there that, I don't want to say media, but there's a lot of things that like people will even tell you, like jobs that they feel like they need, like solar. Like people are out here selling solar and doing everything that they can to make those dollars, and I get it, but like solar can significantly affect the sale of a house. It can make it harder to obtain a loan. We just had somebody that was a veteran that was trying to get one of these houses, and veterans get extraordinarily great rates. They deserve every bit of it, right? So this guy was spreading himself as thin as he could to be able to get the house, but you also have to assume the solar if somebody has solar, and he couldn't qualify to assume that solar, and so he couldn't buy the house. There's new solar things that are coming out where they're like, you don't even have to buy the panels. We'll put our panels on there and generate power. Don't do that. Don't do that because now you have somebody else's property on your property, and if they don't sign off, you can't buy that house. So people think they're helping people, but in that case, they're not.
You're hindering yourself, low-key.
Yeah.
Now you're making it so I can't get out my own house.
Right.
Wow. That's very interesting. I did not know that.
That's correct. And also, even if you got solar and you leased it or you went for it, it doesn't impact the value of the home. It's literally described as personal property sitting on a residence. The most that I've got from somebody that's paid 50 grand for their panels is like $5 grand credit on an appraisal.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah. Until they start assessing that as something worthwhile, because the solar people will be like, no, it'll put on as much as a pool. It will not put on as much as a pool.
Yeah.
I was about to say, so they're considering it like a statue.
Yes.
Like a person, like they chiseled me and put it on the house, and now they're saying
They consider it more like appeal. That adds to the appeal of the home. Like if you painted the house, it's like, oh, well, it looks more appealing, but it doesn't make it more valuable.
wow.
So I mean, the only reason you'd really want to get solar in most cases is if
own
you're
that.
if you're owning and you're living in that house for even an extended period of time after getting the solar to just cut down on costs.
So I did the math, and you have to be able to want that house for at least 8.5 years before you break even. Anything after that makes perfect sense. But you need to ask yourself before you get something like that, am I married to this house? Even though I'm married to this 30-year mortgage, 15-year mortgage, whatever, am I married enough to this house to also live in it for the next 8.5 years? And if I'm not, then that ain't it.
Interesting.
Like even if I put it on my house that I have right now, this isn't my forever house. I'm going to have a different house. And so I'll eventually be paying somebody else's power, which would be great for whoever my future tenant is, but it doesn't impact me in the long run. And I don't know that they even want that in the long run.
Right. And it's good to just kind of explain that, there's both sides to the coin, and then it just allows other people to make more informed decisions about getting stuff like solar.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I know we're going to our end game real quick, but I just have to ask this now. So, is it like, even though I want to do a renovation to my house to make it prettier and look better for me, it can actually hurt me in the future?
I mean, yes, in a lot of ways, but also certain repairs and certain aesthetic things that you'll do to a house just make it more appealing, make it look nicer. It doesn't add to the value. The things that add to the value are like doing the kitchens and the bathrooms. But really, like if I'm doing my kitchens and my bathrooms, I'm gonna live in there for like another year. I'm not, unless you're like flipping the house and you're literally doing it to sell this. And you must have got it at a very low price because you're gonna have a margin and the rest of it's gonna be the profit. So anything that you're doing is gonna start eating into your profit. You're gonna wanna limit your expenses, but you also don't wanna cut corners because that's a common thing that you'll see too. When I'm walking with the buyer through a house, I'll be like corner, corner, corner. Like I can see where they cut the corners because of experience, but otherwise, like people might be like, "Oh, this looks great." And you have a lot of wow factor when you just walk in, but when you have somebody that knows what they're doing, they'll be like, "That's leaking. That's there was a hole in the roof there." Like you can tell. And I'm not an inspector, so I can't say that's actually what that is, but it's like.
You can see something's there though. Something's not right.
Yeah.
At least you're pointing them in the right direction to take a harder look at it.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
And then I have one question before we get into the end game. Just because I work in a bank as well, so I get a lot of like conversation about what's going on in the housing market, even though I don't necessarily understand. But I just want your opinion about what's currently going on, and what would you recommend for somebody that's thinking about purchasing, within like the next year or so.
Do it. The philosophy had been like marry the house, date the rate. I don't know if you've heard that because the rate's not great right now. But like I said, there's ways to buy it down. But ultimately, if you secure that property that you're looking for, our inventory is still very low. Okay. And so once rates drop, there's going to be an affordability problem. People are going to be like, I wanted that house, but I couldn't afford it at that price. And so, I mean, whether the dollar gets devalued or not, the price gets too high. Even if the rate's low, you're not going to be able to afford that house. So if you can afford it sooner, you should get it. I believe that eventually companies, LLCs, they're going to be owning more and more real estate. Yeah. Owning more and more land. Land's the one thing you can never make more of. Like, why wouldn't I want that? I can build a development later if I have land, To be fair, land doesn't always work in our lifetimes, but if you have like a macro view, it could work generationally. But a lot of these companies are scooping up a lot of these houses knowing that people can't afford them and taking the inventory. Also, people that are very cash heavy are absolutely grabbing these houses because these are all income generating properties. And one of the necessities of life is a roof over your head. Food, water, roof over your head. That's what you need. So if they're solidifying, locking down all of these roofs over your heads, what's their incentive to sell it for you? Even if you want to pay more. No. It's making me money every month. Why would I get rid of that? That doesn't make sense.
So it's like, honestly, buy as soon as you can if you're able to.
I mean, I never like to say that, but at the same time, if you don't have a house that you can call your own, I would absolutely recommend it. It does a lot for you just mentally, financially, like because it can save. And you always have the power. At a bank, you know this. You always have the power to refinance when the rate goes down. And it's kind of like time in the market, like crypto, like anything, but it's time in the market versus timing the market. Right. Your 30 years on your loan is going to start tomorrow, or it's going to start in a year, it's going to start in 5. Like, what do you really want?
Right.
And how much are you really going to owe? Because if you're making diligent payments on that, where a landlord can say, I'm raising your rent tomorrow. Like some of my places, I've had, my tenants have been in there so long that the rent's so low. It's like $1,500. I can get $1,900 for that house, but they pay me on time. They're good tenants. I'm not here to do any damage to anybody.
Right.
If they were to leave tomorrow, I'd fix it up and make it $1,900 or whatever. But if that was your house, it's always fixed at that number. And taxes might go up a little bit, or the HOA might go, whatever it is. But if you can solidify a place there, you have options. Pardon me, as an owner that you would never have as a renter.
Right.
And even if the market crashed, you could short sale. You could do a principal reduction. You can negotiate with banks, and you have power there. Whereas a tenant renter, you have no options and no credibility with the banks, and no any of these things. And like, just it's important to build that. It's also very important to build credit. Even if you have a prepaid card and you just make small payments, you just take a little bit, spend a little bit on it, pay it off. Spend a little on it, it'll build your credit. One of my mistakes is I always paid cash for everything at a very young age, and so I had no debt. And I was like, I don't owe anybody. This is going to be easy. And they're like, no, you don't have no debt. Like that's not a good thing.
You never got started to like get your trust up with any of these banks. Like you never gave them the opportunity to trust you.
Yes. Absolutely. So yeah, to answer one of your earlier questions, that's something that I would recommend everyone doing. I watched this thing, and it was this guy that was committing fraud in like Florida, and what he was doing is he was meeting homeless people, I guess, and like asking their names, making fake birth certificates, opening credit cards for them. He'd season those funds and keep doing what I just described for like 6 months. And then he would get home mortgages in like these fake people's names, and then he'd buy the entire neighborhood, flip it for like double, and then like those people would disappear. So yeah, when the feds caught onto that, they arrested him, but now he works for them, like for the government, because they're like, let's get you out of jail and you help us. It's one of those types of stories. But the steps that he took, because he was a mortgage broker, are absolutely something that you could do in your everyday life. It only took him 6 months to go from zero to I can afford a house, but you got to be taking the right steps.
That's very interesting. That's really interesting.
That's
so
wild.
Yeah, make sure you guys take the right steps,
wild.
people. Make sure you guys take the right steps.
So one more question here. So I know there's a lot of information out there. You said you have an alpha group that you kind of get information from, but what do you think about all the conflicting information? Is there any like trusted sources that you have to get financial advice from?
I just, like I said, you build the team, you start making connections with the right people, and you either trust in them or you don't. Any source that you read or see or whatever, odds are they're going to play both sides of the line so that they're safe on no matter what their advice is. And not everyone's going to go 100 for 100 and just crush it. You need somebody that does crush it 70 to 80% of the time, and you win.
Because that's still always a risk in general. So,
Yeah.
Just which of the lesser two L's do you want to take?
Right.
Yeah.
And also, when making these investments, like I said, plan your exit, because these things can go up ridiculous and you're like, oh my God, it's going to keep going. And then it can go to zero. So if it goes up ridiculous and you're happy, get out. Or take profit to where you're at least even, or maybe like a 2X or a 3X, and keep a moon bag if you want. A moon bag is like, in case it goes to infinity, whatever. You know what I mean? But you're risk-free at that point. Risk-free is key.
Gotcha.
Beautiful, beautiful. Any more questions from the crowd, Mr. Tees?
No, I think we're good. Thank you.
Perfect.
My pleasure.
And then, so my very last question for you before we go right into our end game question is there anything, I know this podcast is probably not random, but I know it's like new for you. Is there anything that you wanted to speak on the podcast that we didn't speak on that you, would want to use this open forum for?
If you, like I said, if you have any questions about real estate in general, I can be reached, sherlockforhomes@gmail.com. I'm happy to answer any questions night or day. I always answer my phone for people just to make sure that I give out good information and do the right thing. But again, I can't really advise on crypto and those other things, so please don't ask me those questions.
Is that Sherlock, like the number 4 homes?
Yes,
Okay.
Sherlock, the number 4, HOMES, @gmail.
Yes. And then you already know all the information will be in the bio for the episode. So if you guys didn't get it right now, you will see the information in the bio description for sure.
Beautiful.
So my last 2 questions that I always ask everybody that comes on the Jet Ski Swimming Show is my first question. Where are you still swimming to? Definitely when it comes to your real estate business and your financial freedom. Where are you still swimming to?
I mean, there's always a goal. There's always a destination. There's always something that I want to accomplish. Something that I'm facing that's a struggle, like in the day-to-day, is I have friends or relatives or whoever that just seeks other advice, and you hear all these other people's advice, and you take something that sounds like a shortcut or an easier path, and it's like I would have advised something different. And so it's really just like personal goals and like, man, I wish they would have. It's okay, and let's keep it going. Or like, for instance, 2 years ago was probably the best year I ever had in real estate. The last year was probably one of the worst in the last 5 that I had. And so I'm swimming to somewhere in between those two because it just makes me feel better to do well, but it makes me feel like I'm helping more people at the same time.
Okay, understandable. I love that. And then, is there a quote you would like to leave us with today?
Wow, that's cool. I might have already said it, man, honestly. But if, 2 most important things in this world, figure out what you want and figure out how to ask for it. Even if it's internal or external, just verbalize, visualize, and attack.
Yep, I love that.
Visualize and attack. I like that.
I also think that find out what you want and how to ask for it, because a lot of people, I think that's one thing I always learn. A lot of people say I want something, but they don't ask for it correctly. So they get what they quote unquote want, but it's not the terms they expected it. So now it's like, do I really want this?
Right.
So it's like, no, ask for it correctly. Ask for it to come at the right
like
time.
a genie.
Yeah.
Like a genie. Remember, like back in the day?
You can't just say, I want to be tall.
Yeah, right, because then you're 100 feet tall. You have to
exactly.
Be
Just
very
your neck.
specific with your goals. Be
Yeah,
very
exactly.
and how you talk to yourself. Be very direct. Be very specific.
Exactly. Don't just say, Fairy Odd Parents, Tina Turner. Timmy Turner, yeah. He was like, I want everybody to love me. And everybody loved him.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? They were trying to choke him with love.
Yeah.
He was like, okay, I just want to be liked now.
Yeah.
And then, he had to pull it back. But, be more specific. I love that.
I just like the part of, make sure you ask for it too, because that's kind of like the first step of even getting what you want. Like, hey, you may not receive it from somebody, but at least you're taking a step forward to find out what you need to do to get where you need to go, whether somebody's giving it to you or you're doing it yourself.
Right,
Absolutely.
Exactly. So cool. Thank you so much, James, for joining us today. We appreciate you taking the time out your day. Is there also a website that they can find you on, like your real estate website?
Sherlock4homes.com.
Okay,
Beautiful.
Everything in my life is Sherlock 4 Homes. You want me on Instagram? It's Sherlock4 Homes.
I love it. So we're going to have all that in the bio for sure, so our fans can find you and everything. And I just want to say thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
It's been my absolute pleasure, honestly. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, it was an honor, and you taught me so much today, so I truly appreciate it.
That's the goal.
Yeah, exactly. You keep giving, keep helping people grow and get out there in the world. So yeah, thank you so much. We truly appreciate you for today. We want to shout out to our amazing team, of course, Mr. Tees Mac and Mr. CEO out there. Thank you so much for bringing on this amazing guest.
Yeah.
Mr. Tees, thank you so much for the amazing production quality as always. And one thing I forgot to do last episode is to make a shout out to Room Service Media for letting us use this amazing studio to record this amazing episode. Big shout out to the owner, Miss Love. Thank you so much for this. There's so much love in this building. We appreciate you so much. Mr. 13, thank you so much for another great episode, for joining me again. Everybody out there listening today, I hope you guys enjoyed it, learned something. You already know if you guys have any questions, make sure to reach out to James. He seemed like he's going to be your guy. Definitely for this whole amazing real estate world that he does, he's going to get you a great deal and get you to the house you want. So please do not lose this resource that we just provided you guys with, because it's an amazing one for sure. With all that being said, though, hope you guys had a wonderful day, a marvelous afternoon, a splendid evening, and remember to
Just keep swimming.
Much love.
Say just keep swimming one
Just
time.
keep swimming one time.
There we go.
Literally.
Literally, right. Literally. Thank you guys so much and have a great night.
Thank you.